of a capacity crowd. 5 lights are on. It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen does get away well.
Hello all and welcome back to WHF Round 7 here. You're joined by your host this evening, WHF Arrow, in the commentary booth for this short qualifying here in Austria, Spielberg. It's a pleasure to be back after the break here for Round 7, and we follow SSR Zampa on this run around on his first attempt here. And great to be back. Thank you for the subscription, Kevin Kell, as you've seen the lovely sound alert as we started the lobby. But we'll go on board with Zampa. Has multiple pole positions this season so far, but yet to get a win. Best result of a P3 back in Australia. And as he heads through turn 1, a little deep on entry. But can Zampa get a good result here? Has a little bit of traffic down into turn 3, but does get it stopped as he now plants the throttle out of the hairpin as these cars are going to get it out of his way. Oh my lord, that was awful. Zampa had to part the Red Sea there to try and get his lap, but oh my lord, that is horrendous. Anywho, as Zampa now heads through the tricky turn 7, very tricky in this game. It's a bit different to the previous game. You just don't get the same rotation that you'd ask from the car on the previous game as he heads through the final corner now and plants the throttle to the floor. And it's a 4.7 for Zampa, the first lap time out there. Meanwhile, we will go on board with Ty Clear, currently the championship leader. Took the championship lead last time out in Kota, and can Ty extend his championship lead here? Although with that banker, certainly not going to be the one to look out for. Meanwhile, it was Stephen Beecham, who has led the championship for the majority of the season so far, but with an unfortunate race last time out in Kota, he lost the championship lead to his teammate of Ty Clear. And now Stephen on a flyer is TJ, who has a win in the win earlier in the season. TJ won in, I believe, I can't remember where TJ won. What track was it? Let me double check. It was in the Netherlands. Yeah, it was in the Netherlands where TJ picked up his first win in WHF. Can TJ emulate that again as Stephen up to P3 with a 4.7? Meanwhile, Scones recently moved to the Mazda R5, has found some mega pace on this game as a result. Can Scones be one to watch here in qualifying as Ty with a 5.0 improves to P4. Thank you for the bit, Zampa, as Scones crosses the line but doesn't seem to be going quickly on that lap. Must have made an error on his lap, as Gunner in the chat says I think he has the wrong setup on, which is not ideal, as Infrajack up to P9 on his first banker. We've also the debutant of LTJ Page, home of the LTJ family. We always have at least one of the drivers representing. We've also got Ollie Bean in the Mercedes out there representing for their family as well. But Northy and Ledgeman missing today. As Sci-Fi is locking in, we'll try and get him into the lobby if we can. But who else is on the lap now? Crimson up to P4. Decent improvement from the American who won in Mexico. His first win in WHF in round 5. Could we see a new winner today? Or will it remain a tight battle for the championship? We still have a lot of drivers out there who could realistically win the championship. There is a very close fight on between many of the drivers. Currently, Ty Clear leads the championship by 4 points to Stephen Beecham, who's a further 4 points ahead of TJ, who's a further 4 points ahead of Crimson, who's 11 points ahead of Lime, who's 11 points ahead of D. Summers, who's 1 point ahead of Lanky. So all the way down to P7, you could realistically say the championship could be on for anyone, because even if Lanky were to get a victory today, it was Stevens left the session, not quite sure why. But if Lanky were to get a win today, he would close right up in the championship battle. That would equal Ty Clear's points. So you got to keep an eye out. Anything can realistically happen in this one. Not quite sure, as Paige with a good lap there on her opening lap in her WHF career. Zampa appears to be doing an extra burn lap, burning some extra fuel off the car. Meanwhile, TJ, currently the provisional pole sitter, could be the driver to watch. Welcome in, long time no see. You may not know me now. What would your gamer tag have been? Oh, it was a big snap of the rear from TJ, and I think he's already backed out that lap. Big mistake through turn 1 for TJ. And he's probably have to go for another attempt here. Meanwhile, we do have A54, aka AU, on a lap. But whoever's in the Twitch chat, Sadel... Oh, SNZ. Aye, yes, I remember you, SNZ. It has not been long, SNZ, since we were last acquainted. SNZ was a quick driver in Tier 2 last season. SNZ, we're waiting for you to return. At any point you want to return, let us know. And there are definitely races available. There's 3 seats available tonight if you did want. We do have a couple drivers missing tonight, but I'm sure following the summer break, a lot of drivers may have forgotten about us. That's all I can really say. As Zampa on a flyer here. SNZ says, yes, I'm coming back. That's great to hear. But Zampa now on a flyer, battling with TJ for pole. And Zampa, you'd have to say, one of the quickest drivers yet to get a win in Tier 2 this season. Could Austria finally be the one where Zampa makes it happen? And he gets a much better run through turn 7 on this attempt now. And as Zampa now charges up the hill, could this be the lap for Zampa? Just going to nail the penultimate corner and the final corner. Absolutely flying is the Williams, but does he have the pace? Meanwhile, Ollie Bean up to P3, and Zampa goes quickest with a 4-2. But Ollie Bean as well in the Mercedes. That's his best qualifying position so far in his WHF career, as Zampa puts a stamp on pole as it stands now. We've also got Crimson out there. Has a win already this season. Is Crimson improving on this lap? Ty Clear just starting a lap. Can Crimson go any quicker? Crimson half a second to the good. Crimson could be one of the favourites for pole here as well. In the McLaren. Currently P3 in the championship is the McLaren driver. And could this be the race where he could take the championship lead as Crimson up to the line, up to P3, just a couple hundredths ahead of Ollie Bean. But Ollie Bean having an absolute barnstormer out there. We've not seen Ollie Bean up that high in qualifying before. He's having a bit of a nosebleed up there. Ahead of both Ferraris who lead the championship. Meanwhile, Gunnar, despite not having the right setup on, was improving. 3/10 of the good, but unfortunately invalid. It would have been a 5-0, which would have put him just ahead of Factory in P7. But unfortunately invalid there. Meanwhile, Saife, who has joined us late in the V-Carb, has got into the lobby. Lovely to see. As I've just remembered to open the app. Let me try and get the app open here. I don't know if it'll record because I've opened it after the session started, but here we are. We'll try to see if it works. Hopefully it works. Otherwise I may have to do another job of setting it up. Scones on a flyer here. Got his first podium before the season break, as I've gotten so many errors, dear lord. What is this about? Yep. Hopefully it's recording now. But anyway, Scones now on a flyer, and actually isn't improving by that much. The Aston Martin driver, Stephen Beecham, goes quickest in the Ferrari. Stephen wasn't having the best qualifying so far, but now he's pulled it out of the bag now. And sets a banker. Well, not even a banker, but what? Let's remind me later. It was asking for an update. Anyway, TJ on a flyer is improving slightly, but is it enough to get pole here? Round the final corner, just invalid. And up to the line. And would have improved by 800ths. Ollie Bean says Thug Life, currently sitting P5. But I will say surprising to see Scones not Ledgeman says he's watching the stream for what other drivers were faster and relaying it. I am Bono. Meanwhile, we also have Dubsy out in the lap there in that lovely chrome McLaren. Kinda hope they'd keep the chrome McLaren, to be honest with you. I think a chrome McLaren is the most beautiful, as apparently Dub has a purple first sector. Not quite sure if the game is lying to us or not. Hopefully it's not, because we would love to see a Dubsy pole. I know I would get us cancelled on everything if we seen a Dubsy pole or even a Dubsy win. If we saw a Dubsy win, I would go absolutely ecstatic. But I'm pretty sure, for those of you who remember, Dubsy is actually a former SSR champion for either Tier 3 or Tier 2 many, many years ago, back on F120, I believe. So it's been a while since we've seen Dubsy actually show what he's made of. Dubsy up to P8 with a decent lap there. But if Dubsy were ever to win, we would be absolutely loving life. There's Page on a flyer now. And Ledgeman, if you're listening, and if you're engineering Page, make sure that she has hot lap on and that she's using her overtake button as well. Because, although maybe that was on her, I think that might have been her out lap. Yep. But Paige on a flyer now is using the overtake. I thought for a second there that she wasn't using it on her flying lap, but she is now. And Paige in the Red Bull on her debut. And currently in WHF, there's points down to P16, so as long as Paige can beat somebody in this race, Paige will score points on debut here, so we'll see if Paige can do it. Alongside, still have Sci-Fi yet to put a representative lap time on the board, along with Lanky and Abe as well at the back, down in P17. But Paige now through the penultimate corner. And through the final corner now. Bit of a lock-up through the final corner, and Paige now up to the line. Can she improve? No improvement there for Paige. Meanwhile, Crimson out on a lap. Anyone else out on a lap? As, not quite sure. Also, Brazilian Jeff, a debutant here today as well. Important to mention. Meanwhile, Crimson, the teammate of Dubsy. Dubsy has been a multiple-time Constructor Championship winner in WHF Tier 2. And could Crimson and Dubsy start to crawl back in the Constructors Championship to try and win it here? If Crimson, as he absolutely drifts it around the final corner now and up to the line, Crimson up to P3. Decent improvement there by Crimson, but that might be his final lap because he may not have enough time to get in and out again of the box or even do a cool lap to recharge the battery. But Crimson up to P3, but him and Dub could still win the Constructors title, but it is looking increasingly difficult considering Ty Clear and Stephen Beecham P1 and 2 in the championship as it stands. Meanwhile, TJ 3/10 to the good. This could be a big lap for TJ. He's just got to nail the penultimate corner in the final corner as well, and TJ could be on pole here in the Alpine. Keeps it valid as he rounds the final corner. TJ up to the line in the Alpine, and he just about misses out. P3 for TJ, and just shy of Zampa. Meanwhile, Zampa starting a lap, I believe, starting his final run. Stephen Beecham yet to start his final run. Ollie Bean also on a flyer there, may get a bit of a tow from the car ahead. The Alpine that's in the way, that's not helpful at all for Ollie on his final run. Meanwhile, Ty Clear, currently the championship leader, down in P6, wants a better qualifying than he is currently. And Ty now up to the line. Can he improve from P6? And Ty just gets ahead of Ollie Bean and may have done enough considering Ollie Bean had his lap relatively blocked on that run. Anyone else close to finishing? Not quite sure here. I think Zampa honestly may be the next driver around. And Zampa has invalidated and is backed out of his lap. TJ's backed out of his lap. Crimson invalid again. Ty Clear had improved, but I don't think he'll be going again. Meanwhile, Ollie Bean, can he improve on his run? Does improve slightly, but not enough to catch Ty Clear. We've got Stephen on a flyer there, but it seems no one close to Stephen at this stage. Dubsy now a 10th to the good, would put him ahead of Factory, but he still needs half a second to get Ollie Bean. There's actually a big gap here as Craig says Zampa for the win in the chat, as Dubsy now rounding the final corner. And Dubsy up to the line. Where can Dub go in the McLaren? He does improve ahead of Factory. Scones is backed out of his lap. Lanky up to the line will not improve. Gunner on a flyer now. I think he might be the last driver to complete a lap, as Sci-Fi not improving here. But Gunner must have hit the checkered flag right as he started the lap. Thank you for the 200 bits, Craig. Hope you're doing well on this lovely Saturday afternoon. Or, well, evening, I would say. As we are, well, it's actually afternoon for Craig, so what I said was right initially. Gunner now in P14, and we know Gunner has more pace in hand than he is showing out there, and potentially may have picked the wrong setup. But if Gunner can nail this final lap, he could jump up massively. And as Gunner comes up round the final corner, he goes from P14 up to P8. Big improvement there. 6 positions for Gunner, and that's more around where we would see Gunner. As Isaac in the chat says, definitely could have got pole. Isaac, what's your gamer tag? Because I don't know. This is the first time I'm hearing the name Isaac, and I'm wondering who does that relate to. But there you have it, Stephen Beecham, P2 in the championship, but another Another pole position for Stephen Beecham. And his championship rival down in P5. Isaac says, I'm Crimson. Crimson, who won on round 5. Currently sits P4. Frustrated that he missed out on pole here. That's alright, Craig. As important as WHF is, unfortunately I'd have to say family may be a bit more important. As Ollie Bean says, I'll take it. And P6 may be one of his best qualifying performances here in WHF. But Stephen Beecham on pole yet again here. And Stephen, who actually has had 2 races in a row that really did not go his way. But Stephen now, could he bounce back here and try and win in Austria? Stephen is still yet to get his first win in WHF, despite being P2 in the championship. Also, Zampa yet to get his first win in WHF. Meanwhile, TJ, Crimson and Ty Clare all have wins. Funnily enough, Ty Clare was one of the drivers who for years was unable to get the monkey off his back, but finally in Australia, Ty Clare would pick up a win. And also in Kota as well, Ty Clare 2 wins this season. As I need to make sure to tell the drivers when to get ready up, so that no one readies up early. Hopefully everyone is paying attention. Paige says, poor performance from Ledgeman, walking into my room and distracting me whilst on a hot lap. And yeah, Ledgeman, that's just not on. That is not on. But we will get ready now for 36 laps around the Austrian circuit here in Spielberg. Stephen Beecham will lead Zampa from pole ahead of TJ. Currently, the front row of the grid yet to get a win here in WHF. You'd love to see either of them get a win in WHF. Either way, I'd be very happy to see either Stephen or Zampa win. But they've got a lot of quick drivers behind them. And if you've watched WHF this season so far, just because you start from pole doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win the race. Last time out, Ty won from P4 on the grid. Crimson, the race before, won from P2. TJ won from P4 the race before. As someone's definitely readied up early, I've just realised. As we will have the 5 red lights on here as Zampa is an asshole. And they're away as Stephen Beecham will lead us away. Zampa's got an awful start because he's too busy playing the coffin dance. Sound alert in the chat, and Zampa's dropping down all the way to P5. And contact with Ollie Bean, who's caught the front of Gunnar as well. And Zampa too focused on his phone and not about the start of the race, and he's lost multiple positions off the start here. Meanwhile, Dubsy in behind Ollie Bean battling with Gunnar as Page has left the session, and oh my lord, D Summers is absolutely murdered at turn 3. Not quite sure what's happened there, but D Summers mega contact at turn 3. Meanwhile, Brazilian Jeff battling with Dubsy now round the outside as Ty Clears dropped down all the way to P11. What's happened, Ty? Did Ty have a coming together with D Summers? Was he involved in that carnage? As Brazilian Jeff battles along with Dub Z as they head through the middle sector here side by side, and still they go. Dub Z just about keeping it ahead. Absolute lightning racing as Brazilian Jeff looking on the inside of Dub, but Dub going to keep it ahead now. As absolutely carnage off the start here. Oh, and a big snap of the rear from TJ. Cannot invite Crimson onto the rear. Zampa, who did start from P2. Oh, and Crimson, a big dive on TJ. And that's opened the door to Zampa. TJ really far off the track. Zampa now gets into P2. And Zampa has reclaimed P2. After a bit of carnage here, Infojack all the way to P4. What a race so far from Infrajack. If you have a look at the positions gained, Infrajack up 4 or up 7 into P4 on these hard tyres. Mega racing so far from Infrajack. But Gunner now dropped off the back of TJ's. TJ now looking on the inside of Infrajack. And TJ getting on through into the penultimate corner. Meanwhile, Zampa back onto the rear of Stephen Beecham again, with Zampa setting the fastest lap of the day. And Zampa now chasing after Stephen Beecham after losing the lead now. After losing P2 now, Zampa looking on the rear. Stephen in the battle for the lead, and now the Williams driver takes the lead of the race here on lap 3. As we also have got Dub Z and Fackery battling for position down in P7 and 8. Or P8 and P9 as Crimson loses out to TJ now. Crimson may have lost DRS to Zampa as Crimson now on the rear as Dub Z battling with Gunner. Dub Z big send on Gunner on the inside, and Gunner losing out to Dub as Paige had disconnected there. We're going to try and get Paige back in again. Hopefully she's appearing online to make things easy. There you are. Hopefully Paige can get back in again. As Ty Clear now on the rear of Brazilian Jeff on his debut. Can Ty find a way through on Jeff?
So box.
Keep me saying now.
No, stay up. In.
Hey, man.
No, sorry. Okay, just go.
I was at the entry, man. We're in trouble.
Negative. Sustain out.
And as Craig is loving his life with the sound alerts, we've got Ty Clear now on the rear of A54, who had just got ahead of the Ferrari. Meanwhile, Zampa losing out to Steven. Steven's gone deep around the outside, it seems, which has allowed a bit of wheel banging between Zampa and Steven as they charge down to turn 4. And Zampa, strange to see contact between them. Meanwhile, Infrajack appears to have lost DRS to Crimson ahead. This top 4 seems to have built a gap already here, as Paige trying to rejoin the session now, battling with D. Summers, who had an absolute kamikaze down into turn 3. As Ollie Bean going to get ahead of Infrajack, and Infrajack actually seems to have picked up damage here. Infrajack has damage on the front of his Red Bull as Gunner with a 3-second time penalty. Meanwhile, Zampa trying to find his way back past Steven. They both wash out wide. I wonder, did either of them get a warning there? Have to try and avoid warnings in Austria. They can be very costly. Now Zampa on the inside of Steven. Side by side they go through turn 3. Crimson battling with TJ as well. Crimson appears to have gotten through on TJ, and now Crimson looking to get back through on Steven as Steven in a drag race down to turn 4 alongside Zampa. Steven trying to find a way around the outside, keeps it round the outside, still looking on the rear of the Williams, who just about pulls it ahead. And Steven looking back on the inside of turn 5 on the Williams, but these drivers are nose to tail as Infrajack's got back past it, Ollie Bean. And as long as Zampa and co continue to battle, that could allow the likes of Ollie Bean to get back through again. Meanwhile, Ollie Bean looking on the inside of the penultimate corner. Not the ideal place you want to be going for moves, but Infrajack may be struggling up the hill as Stephen Beecham has lost DRS now to Zampa. Stephen with a mistake of sorts, potentially out of the final corner as Crimson washes out wide. He's got no DRS. That'll allow Stephen back through again, but Zampa now into the lead of the race has broke DRS. Now can Zampa use this opportunity to escape down the road now as Ollie Bean losing out to Infrajack, and Stephen on the rear. TJ going to try and find his way through as well. TJ going to try and get through on Stephen, who did lead the race at a point, but now losing out now, and Stephen battling with the Alpine. Dives at super late contact with the Alpine and TJ. Excuse me, as Ty also battling with Fackery here as well. We've got Sci-Fi battling with the Brazilian Jeff, and Jeff getting ahead of Sci-Fi with a lovely switchback. My lord, what a switchback there from the South African. as TJ and Steven swap positions again, and Stevens lost DRS to Crimson as well. Ollie Bean getting back ahead of Inverjack again at the penultimate corner. I don't know why he keeps going for that move, or why Inverjack keeps letting him through there, but now mega gap starting to form here up at the front now. TJ's almost lost DRS range to Crimson. Has he got it? He hasn't got it. Crimson's not got DRS from the car ahead. Steven's not got DRS from the car ahead. Ollie Bean's not got DRS from the car ahead. But Inverjack has, as he's going to try and find a way through on the Mercedes, and he just ran into the Mercedes. Inverjack completely miscalculating there, as Dubsy battling with Gunner. Ty clear now, getting through on Gunner as well. Side by side they go on a charge down to turn 4. Ferrari and the Cyber go side by side as Ollie Bean picks up a Ty belly, and Ty clear with damage. Championship leader with damage after running into the rear of Dubsy. And that could be mega for the championship here. Even though Steven not having the ideal race, his championship rivals having an even bigger struggle here. One Paige with a spin as we just went on board with her, just double checking if she was in the lobby. Meanwhile, we've got Ollie Bean battling again with Inverjack, and Ollie Bean, a frustrated figure in behind the Red Bull, as the gap seemed to have closed up again. But Crimson, importantly, with a 3-second time penalty, as Ollie Bean now down, back ahead of Inverjack. Ollie Bean though goes wide, opens the door to Inverjack again, and could Dubsy see an opening? Ollie Bean, Inverjack, Gunner, all with time penalties as the McLaren of Dub doesn't know where to go. He's a late send on the Williams, and a beautiful send there from the McLaren as Ollie Bean looks for a way back through again on the McLaren, and Ollie Bean back through again. Meanwhile, Ty in the P. Oh, it's Dubsy back on the inside of the Mercedes. Side by side they go, battling and battling. They head through turn 4, but Dub gets ahead now. And ferocious battling here in the battle for P5 as they all follow Inverjack along as Lanky gets ahead of Brazilian Jeff, but washes out onto the gravel as Ayub gets ahead of Factory now. Factory maybe thinking about coming in. No, that is Ty Clear, the first to dive into the pit lane, as Crimson still out of DRS range from Zampa. Makes a big mistake out of turn 1. That could be exactly what TJ needs to get ahead now, and TJ gonna blow right past the McLaren as we see multiple drivers into the pit lane now. Crimson had a little look on the inside of TJ, but honestly wants to be working together with TJ if he wants to win this race. Needs to be trying to move forward together to catch Zampa, as Craig in the chat says Dub's sending it. Dub has been sending it as he's battling again with Inverjack now. Inverjack on the outside, and you gotta think, what could Inverjack be doing in this race if he didn't have the damage? They've lost a big gap to the cars ahead as Gunner and Ollie Bean, and Gunner contact with Ollie Bean there, and Gunner half spins but catches it again. A couple of drivers out there with damage as Gunner now looking on the rear of A54, who's had a decent recovery in this race, but still a lot that can happen in this one. As Ollie Bean comes in, is he going to fix his damage though, is a question. Has Ty fixed his damage? He has. So the Ferrari of Ty, the championship leader, has fixed his damage. Meanwhile, TJ has just about got DRS range from Zampa. And could he be dropping Crimson out of DRS range as well here? As Craig says, change from mediums to hards is coming. And a couple of drivers have already done it. Meanwhile, TJ, very strong driving to get back inside DRS range from Zampa, and this train has resumed. It had broken up a little bit there, and Zampa potentially with a half spin there as Inverjack gets ahead of Dubsy round the outside, but Zampa lost a lot of time to TJ there out of turn 4. Potentially a half spin for the Williams driver, who may have lost some pace now. Maybe the pressure getting to Zampa as Crimson still out of DRS range now. As Zampa continues to lead now, but TJ back on the trail of the Williams drivers. Crimson going to come in along with Stephen Beecham. Both of Crimson and Stephen Beecham going for the undercut on Zampa and TJ. And how long can they make the mediums go? Can TJ and Zampa? For those of you unaware, this track is absolutely a two-stop, as Dub Z, Infrajack, and Ayub all battling. That's actually Sci-Fi Mega Ape, not his Ayub actually. Battle into turn 1. Is Ayub going to get through on Infrajack? Dub Z leading here as Ayub on the inside of Infrajack. Infrajack gone deep though, battling with that damage as well, and Infrajack just about getting ahead of Ayub. Meanwhile, Zampa and TJ continue on. Lanky on the rear now of Gunner. Still a lot to happen in this race. Been a lot of carnage so far here, and we're only a third of the way through, and still a lot that can happen. Meanwhile, Zampa almost dropping TJ out of DRS range, and he has again. Zampa again pulling a gap to the car behind. Is Abe getting ahead of Infrajack? Is Infrajack going to come in off the hards? A yellow flag around, and it's for Page, I believe. Page having a spin at turn 4, unfortunately, as Factory gets a 3-second time penalty. Infrajack into the pit lane. Lanky following along Gunner and Abe. Abe washing out wide. A lot of drivers struggling at turn 1 here, it seems. Meanwhile, Ollie been trying to recover, had a good qualifying, but has had a tumultuous race so far. And Ollie being going to look on the inside of Factory down into turn 1. Not an ideal place to be going for a move, and Ollie Bean and Factory both leave the circuit there under contact, which may invite Ty Clear through, and Ty through on Factory now, and can he get through on Ollie Bean as well? As Gunner unable to get past Ayub. Stephen Beecham looking to catch Crimson, but Crimson's got a big gap to Stephen now. Meanwhile, Ty going to look to get ahead of Ollie Bean, and Ty on another recovery drive here in Tier 2. The championship leader now up to P11. And can he make his way forward to try and catch his championship rival, who's a good 7 seconds up the road from Ty here. Meanwhile, Crimson gets ahead of Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi still yet to box here. TJ comes in. Zampa appears to be staying out. I think Zampa trying to go long here. Zampa may be thinking about the one-stop. And normally I'd say the one-stop around Austria is not great, but you never know. If Zampa makes it work, I will eat my words. As Crimson now leads along Sci-Fi Mega. But Sci-Fi will not have DRS exiting turn 3, so Stephen could be able to use DRS from Sci-Fi and use it to latch onto the rear of Crimson here. Stephen now with DRS on Sci-Fi and going to blow right past as we've got Ayub and Gunner, and Gunner's around at turn 4. And Gunner losing out to A54 as Crimson going to get ahead comfortably ahead of Gunner, who again has been in the wars this race. Hasn't really had a race this season that has really gone his way. Probably only one dimension that Gunner's not been involved in drama here, and may have to think about boxing very shortly. Also that damage is Stephen Beecham now on the rear of Gunner, and he's going to want a dispatch of the Cyber as quickly as possible to try and head after Crimson now. And Crimson in a very good position now, gone medium. He'll definitely have to switch the hards, but he's on an alternate strategy to many of the drivers out there. So can Crimson make it work here? Crimson looking for another victory this season, as Ollie Bean picks up a 3-second time penalty, along with D Summers picking up a 10-second. And TJ now ahead of Sci-Fi down into turn 4. And TJ currently the freshest hards out there, not counting D Summers, who's just exiting the box. And can TJ start to make his way back up to the rear of Stephen and Crimson? TJ's possibly doing a 2-stop. You would think he's doing a 2-stop. Meanwhile, Zampa may actually be trying the 1-stop. But we'll see when Zampa exits, as Crimson may have had to avoid A54 there entering the box. Gunner also entering the box. There's TJ now rounds the final corner. And where will Zampa exit in this race? Zampa could be doing the 1-stop, and if he does, it'll be a very impressive drive if he makes it work and wins here. But I would normally say the 2-stop's normally quicker, but We'll see what Zampa can do if he can manage these hards. I'd say they probably could go the distance. He just has to manage them. 21 laps. And I think Zampa has did a very good job in his first stint to manage the mediums as long as he did. It could be doable. We'll have to see. But Zampa is in a good position here. And Zampa will have to keep an eye on what he can do here. Meanwhile, Stephen, P2 in the championship. Back on the rear of Crimson. Crimson had used those mediums to good use for a couple laps there, but Stephen now could be back inside DRS range, and Crimson with another time penalty. TJ with a time penalty as well. Zampa ahead of Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi entering the box there, but TJ and Crimson both battling for the win here, and both picking up time penalties, which is a big help to both Stephen Beecham and SSR Zampa. Massive help to them. Also Ty Clear, who's on much older hards than Zampa, but if Ty can keep inside DRS range from the Williams, this is going to help Ty's race massively. If he's towed along by the Williams, this is ideal for the Ferrari. All he needs to do is stay with Zampa inside DRS range, and Ty could still have a good race. And Craig says, if Zampa pulls a one-stopper off, I will buy a Millwall kit. And we are going to hold you that, Craig. We want to see Craig in a Millwall kit. I couldn't name you a Millwall player. Maybe a couple of years I could have, but not anymore. And now Crimson is inside DRS range from his teammate of Dubsy, as Stephen wants to get involved here as well. But can Dubsy play the team game and help Crimson out here? If Dub lets through Crimson at the right point and holds up Stephen, and Stephen washes out very wide, and Crimson out, let through by Dub into before turn 3. And now if Dubsy can hold up Stephen now, it could be massive for Crimson's race. Now Dub, can he protect against the Ferrari, who's now looking on the inside? Dub trying to battle with the Ferrari, goes defensive to the inside. Stephen very late on the brakes. Round the outside is the Ferrari. Mega move from Stephen, but he washes it wide onto the gravel. And that's exactly what Crimson needed. Stephen now stuck behind Dub, as Stephen broke as late as he could, but is now trapped behind the McLaren of Dub, who's going to go to the inside, as Dub possibly looking to enter the pit lane. And Stephen now has lost over half a second to Crimson. Meanwhile, Dub could even come back at Stephen. He could potentially look to on Dub with a time penalty. That's not going to help Dub's race at all. TJ going to get ahead of Dub now into P3. And TJ now back inside DRS range of Stephen. And TJ also one to watch here, but Crimson got a lot of help there from his McLaren teammate. Although Crimson with 6 seconds of time penalties, can he still do it? We will have to see. As Factory on the rear of A54. In for Jack, also on the rear of Factory, round the outside. Oh, and contact between the Red Bull and the Haas there, side by side. They go through turn 5. Factory losing out here. And some damage for the Haas, certainly not helping, as Dubsy now comes in. And he may be able to make the mediums last to the end. It'll be a bit of a stretch, but potentially he'll have less fuel. So it is on the cards. Meanwhile, TJ chasing after Stephen. Stephen chasing after Crimson. Ty Clear picks an uncharacteristic, as Brazilian Jeff has just retired on track. That's not good at all. That's not good. But TJ now back on the rear of Stephen. Stephen battling with the Alpine. The Alpine sends it on the inside. Stephen round the outside. battling with the Alpine. It's a drag race now, down out of turn 4 through turn 5. Side by side they go, and Stephen outbreaks the Alpine. The Alpine, though, round the outside, soars round the outside. Just found impeccable grip, and the Alpine gets through. And Fackery, does he have big damage there? He does, Fackery. Oh, and he's rejoined horrifically into Gunner, and Gunner, oh my lord, Gunner. Things have just gone from bad to worse for Gunner, as Fackery has no front wing on that car, but rejoined the racing line as Gunner was coming through, and there's nothing Gunner could do to avoid the ass there. As Fackery is retired in the pit lane. And not the ideal race for Fackery. Meanwhile, Crimson and TJ battle side by side. We don't get the best of camera angles here, but TJ round the outside now and takes the lead of the race. As Stephen, it's crunch time for Stephen now. He needs to stay inside DRS range from Crimson and TJ. Otherwise, TJ could be one of the favourites for victory, because TJ only has 3 seconds of penalties. Meanwhile, Crimson has got 6 seconds of penalties. But TJ already looking to drop the hammer away from Crimson. Anything could still happen in this race. Anyone inside the top 4 could realistically win it, as Crimson washes out wide again, possibly picking up another warning, which invites Stephen now onto the rear of the Williams. As Crimson trying to stay with TJ as they head up through turn 3. Crimson doesn't have DRS. Stephen does have DRS though, as Lanky picks up a time penalty down in P10. As Stephen on the rear now. Crimson going to try and get back ahead of the McLaren. The McLaren, they're going defensive. And Stephen now around the outside. Can he find the grip on the outside? Brakes later. And what a move from Stephen on the outside. Brilliant, brilliant overtake from the Ferrari. As he gets round the outside of Crimson. Crimson possibly struggling in these mediums. Got to think about going on to hards now soon. Is Crimson. As he's done the medium, hard. And Crimson now going to come in. And Stephen possibly gutted having to battle with Crimson now, because he's on older hard tyres as he continues to try and catch TJ. As they now go on to the 2-stop, but Stephen now has to stay inside 3 seconds of TJ's penalty threshold. And we will see how that plays out as Infrajack picks up another time penalty here. Down in P9. Still has damage on the... Well, actually, he has fixed the damage on the front of that Red Bull. As Crimson now exits just behind Infrajack. I'm going to look to get ahead of the Red Bull. And Crimson now in the McLaren, comfortably getting ahead of the Red Bull. And Crimson will look now to chase after the lead. He has 7 laps fresher tyres than Zampa. A reminder, Zampa could be going to the end here, or doing just a very long 2-stop. We'll have to see. Craig says Zampa's creeping as Stephen now comes into the pit lane. And does Zampa have DRS as well from Stephen? He does, that'll help him a little bit. But Zampa, gotta think about tyre management until the end of the race, unless he's doing a 2-stop. Personally, if it were me doing this race is 100% a 2-stop. But that is me on pad. On wheel, it's easier to manage the tyres. We'll see if Zampa can manage the tyres here in the Williams. It'll be a tricky ask, but if Zampa can do it, it'll definitely be one of his better performances in his career. And certainly his best performance in his WHF career. With 13 laps to go, Zampa's 3.7 away from the lead. TJ could potentially... Zampa could potentially, as Dubsy battling with Ayub through turn 4. Crimson also joining this battle as well. Crimson possibly frustrated, stuck behind his teammate now. Crimson off the track now. Dub does let through Crimson, but Dub is trying to get through Ayub as well here. Meanwhile, Stephen joined this battle, yet again met by Dubsy, looking to frustrate him. Oh, and Crimson almost into the rear of Ayub, as Ayub on just much older tyres, and Crimson are going to look to get through down turn 1. And Stephen's got to think about trying to dispatch of this pack as early as possible, because he can't allow Crimson to disappear off down the road, as Dubsy now in the rear of Ayub. Gonna look on the inside of the V-Carb. Dub now on the inside, as there's a bit of a wheel bang between the McLaren and the V-Carb. And Ayub side by side with Dub as they charge down to turn 4. But does the V-Carb have greater straight line speed? It does appear that he has. Ayub keeps it ahead of Dubsy, as Gunner's retired in the pit lane. An unfortunate race for Gunner, as Dubsy actually going to let through Stephen Beecham now. It's a surprising thing to see now, considering Stephen's on a lap fresher tyres than Crimson and is very much in the battle for victory here. Dub could have done a job to help his teammate here, as Abe washes out wide, picks him another time penalty here, which is certainly not going to help him. As we see Page try and get out of the way of the drivers. Stephen Beecham trying to catch. Not even quite sure who that is ahead. It might be Crimson closest ahead, as we've seen Page and Gunner. As Ollie Bean on the inside of Sci-Fi Mega Hype looking for the switchback. And can Ollie keep ahead of the South African? As Sci-Fi looking on the rear of Ollie Bean. But Ollie Bean going to keep it ahead now. Meanwhile, Zampa doesn't appear to be catching TJ too quickly. But the thing is, if Zampa is trying the one-stop here, he really does not need to push. The only reason Zampa would need to push is if he is doing a two-stop. He wants to use up his hard tyres before he goes to mediums. But if he is doing the one-stop, as TJ does come in, Zampa is going to try and manage these hards to the end. If he is doing the one-stop. And if he is doing the one-stop, this will be a very impressive feat to pull off. Meanwhile, D Summers back up into P10 as he battles with Sci-Fi Mega Hype. And TJ now on the rear of Crimson. And TJ appears to have much better tyres here. TJ could be one of the favourites for victory. But Stephen now, can he get inside DRS range? As TJ on the outside of Crimson. May look for the switchback as Crimson goes a little deep. Opens the door to TJ now. Out of turn 4. As we're getting horrible camera angles. But through turn 5. Can TJ find it around the outside? Can he do it again? What a sensational overtake from TJ. I don't know where he's finding the grip. But he is around the outside. And TJ with a monster overtake on the outside of Crimson. Through turn 5. Just sensationally finds the grip where no one else can. And TJ up into P3. As Ty Clare does come in to the pit lane for some new tyres. But Stephen will do well if he can stay inside DRS range of the two cars ahead of him. But he may have made a little bit of an error out of turn 1, which may hamper him in that battle. Both drivers ahead of penalties, and he's got to do everything he can to hold on to the train ahead to make sure he stays with inside that penalty margin. But he's already lost DRS now. And can Crimson and TJ work together to disappear? Crimson though going to look on the inside of TJ. Very late on the brakes, but Crimson doesn't get ahead. Can Stephen get back inside DRS range? Meanwhile, Zampa has got to hold on. A 12-second gap until the end here, as he tries to manage his hard tyres to go to the end. If he can make it work, it'll be a brave stint, as I believe that's just Page again, unfortunately. As Infrajack battling with Ayub. Ayub gonna stay ahead, or get ahead of Infrajack. Meanwhile, Crimson appears to have lost DRS to TJ now. TJ on the mediums to the end. Crimson though back inside DRS range, possibly dumped all the battery down the main straight as TJ actually lifting off there to get DRS from Scones, and I'm not quite sure why Scones has had such a struggle this evening. But Scones having an uncharacteristic race here, really not had the ideal day at all from start to finish. As Lanky and Infrajack battle through turn 3. And Infrajack gets, or loses out to Lanky. As Lanky now into P9. But the battle for the lead rages on. TJ's caught 2 seconds to Zampa already. And at that rate, TJ would catch Zampa's Crimson back inside DRS from TJ. Does he have it? Does he not? The deltas are fluctuating so much in this front four. But I think Crimson has lost DRS, but for how long is the question. Can TJ pull a gap to the McLaren? Can Stephen stay with Crimson? As Ty Clear now sets the fastest lap, heading after Dub Z now. Dub Z looking at a very good P5 performance as it stands. Stephen outside DRS range as well. Crimson doesn't have DRS off TJ. TJ's caught another second to Zampa. And Zampa realistically just needs to make these tyres go to the end. Also, if TJ does get ahead of him, he's got to try everything he can to defend or even hold on to the DRS range from the Alpine. But I think Zampa is definitely going to the end from here. I don't think we're going to see Zampa do a late pit stop as D Summers gets out of Infrajack now in the battle for P10. As Stephen on the rear Crimson, and Crimson's lost a lot of time to TJ now. 3 seconds as the gap. TJ is flying out there on the medium tyres. Does Zampa have enough in the tank to hold on? As Ty Clear going to get through on Dub now. Ty on the much better mediums. But 10 seconds Ty is back from his championship rival. Meanwhile Stephen could potentially still get a P2 here. If everything goes his way to the end, will TJ's mediums hold on to the end? We will see. And can he catch Zampa? It seems inevitable as lap on lap we continue to catch Zampa. And I did mention the 2 stops normally quicker. And the delta's now at 6.3 to Zampa. And Zampa spun at the final corner! Oh, I don't believe it! Zampa has spun at the final corner. And that is the win gone for Zampa. Oh my lord. Absolute heartbreak yet again. And we were saying that we don't know if the 1 stop is doable. And he's overheated the hards. And there you have it. Zampa has lost the win again. Here on lap 31. Heartbreak for Zampa again. It just should have gone for the 2 stop. And Crimson now back on the inside of Stephen Beecham. And Stephen round the outside. And Stephen could still get the win here. It is still on the cards. But absolute heartbreak for Zampa. Stephen will probably get ahead Zampa with ease. Considering Zampa's on 8 lap older hards. The only issue is Stephen just needs to be not held up by Crimson. And if Stephen can get DRS range from Zampa and then get inside that 3 second window of TJ ahead. TJ does have the 2 lap fresher mediums, but they will lose pace at a point as Crimson out down the inside of Stephen. And these two are battling far too hard for no reason. They're costing themselves massively here. I think Crimson's more worried about holding up Stephen, if anything. Which he has done masterfully, because Stephen's lost so much time in that battle. Crimson really playing the saboteur here. And Stephen, I'm sure frustrated battling with Crimson now, because Crimson has loads of penalties. And all Crimson's really doing is trying to help Stephen lose points at this stage, which surprisingly, Stephen was only half a second away from Zampa. Now he's 3 seconds away from Zampa. TJ does have 3 seconds of penalties. Crimson with 6. Infrajack with 21. D Summers with 16. Ayub with 12. As Ty, Dub, Lanky, and Page have got 3. Crimson and Cypher have got 6. And Ollie Bean's got 9. But surely it's inevitable whether Stephen will catch Zampa. I'd be surprised if Zampa holds on to P2 here. But Crimson may have played a major impact in helping Zampa keep P2 here. But Stephen surely has enough tyre life left. But unfortunately for Stephen, Crimson battling with him may have cost him a chance at the win here. It seemed like the win was on, and now he is a good 6 seconds back from the leader. And Stephen needs absolute major pace towards the end of the race, but it looks like it may be TJ's race to lose at this stage. Although TJ could pick up a time penalty that could add some drama into the race now. 3 laps to go in the race, and the Alpine of TJ, who's currently P4 in the championship, could even take the championship lead here if he wins in the Alpine. As Stephen looks to try and catch Zampa again here, but Crimson may look to spoil the party as he charges after the Ferrari. Down into turn 4, but Stephen now, as there's a yellow flag around for Dub, I believe. Dub's had a spin out of turn 1. Not quite sure what's happened with Dub there, but Stephen now will have DRS from Zampa, and Zampa, it's a matter of when, not if. Even though there's only 2 laps remaining, the grip on those hards will be non-existent. Zampa could still get a podium here, as Stephen washes out wide. May have picked up a warning there. But if Zampa can keep Stephen behind, I'll be absolutely shocked. But if Zampa plays his cards right, he could still get a podium here. He's got to try and keep these cars behind for as long as possible. As he looks to defend the inside, Stephen looks on the outside of Zampa, trying to find the grip now. Zampa can't find any grip on the inside there, losing the rear. And now may be a sitting duck for Crimson as well, and Crimson gets right on through on Zampa. And Zampa, all he has to focus on now is staying inside the penalty threshold of Crimson. Meanwhile, Stephen somehow going to catch 3 seconds and a bit to TJ, who may have this in the bag, but TJ's got to make sure he avoids any warnings. TJ should have this in the bag for his 2nd win of the season and potentially take the championship lead here. As D Summers gets ahead of Infrajack out of turn 3, as they may have had a coming together here. As we start the final lap, Zampa going to try and give everything to stay with Crimson, losing the rear though. The tyres may be dead, and Zampa's got to avoid a puncture here. He should be able to get P3 regardless here, but I think Zampa's probably wondering if Stephen makes a mistake here, could he get P2? But I think unlikely at this stage, as Crimson now going to lock on the inside. Meanwhile, Ollie Bean on the rear of Ayub. Dubsy with another mistake out of the final corner, it seems. As Ollie Bean on the rear of Ayub, trying to find a way through. But we'll move on board to the man of the hour, TJ. who has already one win this season in round 4, may win again here in round 7, as he just needs to keep it valid through the final corner. And TJ in the Alpine, for the second time this season, will win in WHF Tier 2. And TJ, with that, may even close the championship leader here, as Stephen finishes P2 and Crimson finishes P4 behind Zampa, who picks up his second podium of the season, as Ty Clare picks up a P5. And Ty, more of a race of damage limitation there, not having the ideal start at all. Meanwhile, Ollie been battling with Abe, who are both looking at a P6 and P7, which I think might be their 2 best results of the season. As D Summers loses out to Infrajack on these very worn hards. I wonder, it kind of seems like he may have a puncture here, but look at the definition on those tyres. They are gone beyond belief. But D Summers does get ahead of Infrajack, and Sci-Fi crosses the line and may even get ahead of Infrajack as well. But there you have it, TJ in the Alpine wins for the second time this season, and with it may even take the championship lead. We'll have to double check after the race to see whether he has scored enough points to take the championship lead. But TJ from P4 now all the way up to the championship lead here, as Ty Clare will almost definitely have lost at least to his teammate as well, and Stephen with another P2 this season. Stephen, the win still eludes him here. As we'll try and get all the results in to help out the stewards here and the race director, which in Austria will be long, as there is a lot of track limit penalties. But we'll try and get the drivers in for driver interviews. We'll start with Ollie Bean, who's just joined us. Ollie Bean, how'd that race go for you?
I qualified really well. During the break, I've been practicing on the wheel. I've sorted my brake issues. They're all tied down now, so should be good. And I qualified really well. When the race started, I had a better reaction than everyone in front of me. And I made a lunge. And I don't think whoever was in front of me saw, but like it ended up spinning me just a small bit. Managed to save it though. Up to the hairpin, my side pod got rammed into, but again managed to save it. But I had a few adventures with track limits, which wasn't fun. But then Infrajack, he barged me off a small bit, and I got a penalty for it. So I will probably be going to the stewards about that. But yeah, it's my highest race result I think I've had in WHF. I've really put in the work now on the wheel. So I'm looking for more like this in the future. Yeah, I did notice after you came back from the summer break, I seen you qualifying very well, then was thinking, where has he found this pace out of? And I thought for a second there, I was wondering, had he went back to pad? And then turns out no, you've actually put in the time and you've found the pace finally. Yeah, I've shored up my mistakes. I've run a lot of simulations focusing on tyre wear and basically to stop the rear stepping out on me, because that was my main issue. I wasn't really knowing how to deal with that on the wheel, but I've sorted all those issues now, so it's just about getting faster and faster, and hopefully eventually I can start competing for podiums.
Yeah, hopefully so. We'd love to see it. Do you think you'll be the first out of the LTJ family to get a podium in WHF?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. Without a doubt.
I wonder, is it just bragging rights, or do any of you have a bet on or anything?
I mean, if Les Man wants to put a bet on, I'll do it. I'll give you 20 quid if I get a podium next race.
No, I'll put a fiver on it.
Oh.
But anyway, we'll move on to the man of the hour, TJ. It didn't seem likely starting from was it P4 that a win. Oh, no, actually, it was P3.
Yeah,
It was
P3.
it was unsure who was actually going to win that race because everyone was so close with pace throughout there. The top four was absolutely nose to tail throughout. But TJ, how did that win feel?
Yeah, it felt great. It's a bit weird because I was trying to think of what to say, but I didn't really get that many overtakes, if that makes sense. It all just kind of came to me. Like, obviously, I was just there to pick up the pieces. But I thought I made the wrong tire choice as well by putting the mediums at the end, but it was actually the right choice, and I was able to pull out because I had a penalty as well, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was one warning away from another penalty as well, so that added the risk as well. But yeah, just carried on and picked up the win.
Yeah, we did see you on that last lap going very cautious, seeing you really avoiding the curbs to make sure you
Yeah.
didn't pick up a warning there. But whenever you did pick up that first penalty, what was your thoughts?
I was like, yeah, damn it, like Austria is harsh on with the track limits, and I was like, okay, I got one, and then I picked up another warning for something that was just my mistake, and then another one, and I was just like, okay, great, and then obviously realized I was in the lead. I've still got a penalty. I'm one warning away from another. I need to just carry on, just be careful because I've already pulled the gap, and just be careful and bring it home.
And bring it home. You you did just that, and with that, I think you might even sneak into the championship lead all of a sudden from P4.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's very
Well,
I think I'm P3 in the championship. I think I'm about 8 points
Oh yeah,
behind. I think
you're
it's-
P3, and you're 8 points behind, and I think you would have outscored Stephen there, who did finish P2. So I think you do take the championship lead there.
Well, that will be great. So that's a nice feeling. So obviously, hopefully, continue it into Japan and the races going forward.
Yeah, and did you think the championship was on at the start of the season?
Absolutely not, man. Like the race in Australia, I think I had like 3-4 spins. I was like, Jesus, like this is not going well for me. But then I just started just working on that, working on the mistakes, and just being consistent. And I just kept finding more and more pace.
But regardless, great win, TJ, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time out in Japan to see can you really put a stamp on this potential Tier 2 championship. We'll move on to Stephen. Stephen, unfortunately, it's another P2. I am getting sick of hearing Stephen Beach in P2, as I'm sure you are as well. But Stephen, how'd that race go for you?
The race went good. Yeah, P2, I mean, it is what it is. But overall, the race went good. I tried to undercut TJ, and it didn't work out. I kind of got held up in traffic, but still, P2, I'll take it. I kind of did some quick calculations, and I'm not really sure if TJ or me takes the championship lead. I don't know, but overall, great race. Austria is not really one of my favorites, so good. And I had some good battles with some of those out there. So overall, good race. Good race.
Yeah, good race, and with it, I do think you overtake your championship rival in Ty Clear, but while you and Ty have been battling the whole season, TJ has sneaked up out of nowhere, and now you've got to worry about TJ. How does that feel?
TJ is a really good driver. We had some really good battles in different races here and there. So, good luck to TJ. Congratulations on the win, but we're just going to keep pushing forward and try to see if we can sneak this championship.
Yeah, we're looking forward to see it, and hopefully, even if you don't win the championship this season, I want to at least see one win because you've been so close the whole year,
Right.
and we're yet to see it. It is getting frustrating just in the commentary booth watching.
Yeah. There are some. Austria is not really one of my strong. I mean, I got pole, great. It's different than race pace, but some of the tracks that we have left are more on my better side. So, but some of these guys are getting faster as well. So, just keep it up, and yeah, I'm the same. I hope I can get a race win. I kind of want to see what that feels like, but we'll keep pushing and see what we can do.
Well, good race there, Stephen. Hopefully in Japan could finally be the race for you where we finally see a win. We'll move on.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Zambo, finished P3. another driver who unfortunately missed out on the win. Zampa, how'd that race go for you?
Yeah, so I got a mouthful of crisps. Yeah, it was good. But why am I the only one out here trying to do a fucking one stop?
Because Austria's not a one stop. I don't know why
It is.
it isn't a one stop.
Well, it is. It is now.
No.
No. Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't have spun that, I don't know for sure, but I maybe could have won that if I didn't spin.
I don't think anyone in Tier 1 tried a one stop, so I was shocked whenever you were trying the one stop, but the fact you'd taken the medium so far in that first stint, I thought it was possible, but in all honesty, I think regardless, TJ would have caught you. He had mega pace on those mediums. But say
I don't know.
say TJ weren't there at all, then I think the win was on. But I honestly think his pace on the mediums was too strong, regardless.
Yeah, at the end, my rears were, I think, 91 and 89%.
What was your where?
So, what?
What was your where?
I think it was 91 on the left and 89 on the right rears.
Yeah, that is why it's not a one stop.
But no, yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, another podium for you, Zampa. Is Japan one of your stronger tracks?
No, I suppose we'll find out next week.
Well,
I don't think so. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
If you need any tips, just ask. We're going to try and finally manufacture, at least, because both Stephen and yourself started on the front row, and we were thinking, surely at least one of them have got to get the monkey off the back of
Neither of us did.
not getting a race win so far this season, and unfortunately, we're still going to have to wait for it. But it's another podium for yourself, Zampa, and you have had a couple of rough races recently, but do you think the championship's still on? If you really
not at
knuckle
all.
that,
No chance.
you just got to win every race, and you got it.
It's one of the Ferraris, and it's going to be one of the Ferraris.
Well, we will certainly see next time out, but thank you, Zampa. We'll move on to Crimson. Crimson, that's a P4 performance from yourself. Crimson, how'd that race go for you?
Went a lot better than expected. I was the complete opposite from everybody else, it seems, this summer break. I actually took a break. And coming into today, it was going to be very iffy, and was told that by the track limits and the penalties. But towards the end of it, I was finally getting it under control and stuff. And I was trying to do a DRS train with Steven, but he kept fighting me every time I'd try and get past him. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm trying to help us get up there, and if he didn't fight me so much, he probably could have won.
That was what let me catch up to yous. I was so far behind, and you were all fighting like 5 seconds down the road. A few laps later, I'm right behind you all.
I was sitting there, I was
You
trying
could
to
have
let
all
him
just
go
disappeared.
But it happened, and we both ended up past Nampa anyways. So, but I ended up back behind him with the penalties. So we'll come back next week and see how it goes.
Is Japan one of your strong suits, Crimson?
Absolutely not.
Well,
It's going to be tough, but I will actually be putting in work this week.
I will say to all the drivers, if you hadn't watched the Tier 1 Austria race, I would recommend you watch the Tier 1 Japan race for some tips on strategy, and maybe even just racing lines or whatever. But we'll move on now to Gunnar. Gunnar, it's been another unfortunate race from yourself. It seems like you're one of the most unlucky drivers out there. But how'd that race go for you, Gunnar?
A lot of questionable things happened that race. I'll be seeing the stewards for a few times, but yeah, I've just been so unlucky. Like the past few races, incidents that I can't really control. I had wing damage from like lap 6. I was carrying that around, and then something to do. I don't know what happened with Valkyrie, but then my whole wing basically came off, and then
Oh
gave
yeah,
up after that.
we did see it. He had no front wing, so I don't think he was really.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's probably why he was going so slowly.
Alright, well, it's just unlucky, I guess. Nothing I can do, but yeah, on to the next one. Japan, I think's more strong suited to me. I've done a few races there, so it should be better.
I would still report the incident just so the stewards can have a look at it, but another unfortunate race for me. It just seems like the luck is really not falling your way, unfortunately.
Yeah, especially running the wrong setup at the start as well, so yeah, just, I don't know.
Yeah, but hopefully in Japan we can finally see a race where it's not just absolute carnage for yourself, and hopefully Japan will be the one where we see you get a good result this season.
Yeah, hopefully.
But I believe that is everyone interviewed here in Tier 2. This has been Round 7 in Austria. TJ is your winner here in Round 7. Picks up his second win of the season. And with it, I'm pretty sure picks up the championship lead as well. So TJ has snuck his way up. But now with the championship lead, can TJ start to cement that championship lead as we head next time out to Japan for Round 8. Also, Tier 1 heads to Silverstone next time out as Cookie looks to extend his gap from the likes of Star and Nasev. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, please drop a follow. Also, make sure to follow Dirk Chocolate on our way over as we raid him on the way out. But thank you all for watching. I've been WHFRO, and we'll see you all tomorrow for Round 7 in Silverstone. But thank you all for watching, and goodbye.